I imagine you have all seen this footage a million times, but we will play it again. This takes place in Pennsylvania. We're going to go through all the aspects of this. I imagine many of you have heard many of the things that we have to talk about because, there's a limited amount of reporting, at least around some of the biggest questions, like who was this shooter? We know who he was, but why did he attempt to shoot Donald Trump? We will get to that. He's a registered Republican, for what it's worth. I think different people are going to have different theories as to why he was doing this. We may never know. The other question is how did the Secret Service F this up so badly?
Oh, yeah.
Because we've got footage of people seeing the guy before he shoots for an extended period of time. And apparently, we will talk about this as well. A police officer climbed up a ladder onto the roof, saw the guy, and when Crooks, the name of the shooter, pointed his rifle at him, the cop basically just went down the stairs again, and that's when Crooks started to fire on Trump, hitting at least 3 people in the crowd, killing one almost instantaneously, I guess. And then we will talk about the responses. But here is that footage. Donald Trump speaking. You will notice just before he is shot at, he turns to his right, apparently to look at a Jumbotron that had a graphic, no doubt, talking about how horrible immigrants are. And that's what appears to have saved his life.
Take a look at what happened.
Okay, pause it for 1 second. Now, so you hear, I think it's 4 shots. Those are the shooters. And then the next shots you hear are Secret Service snipers firing back at him. We have footage of that moment when the snipers realize that they spot the shooter.
Although a little bit of levity for folks right now. The guy that is supposedly the reincarnated JFK Jr., you can spot him in the background. So, wow.
Confusedly standing up as gunshots ring out.
He's really been through a lot, JFK Jr. in his second incarnation.
And now you're going to hear basically the Secret Service people yelling, we're going to move them. We're going to move them. And then they decide to wait until they can confirm that the shooter has been killed or subdued. And that's when they start to move him. And then you're going to hear Donald Trump say twice, "Let me get my shoes." Apparently his shoes fell off. People have different theories about that as to why his shoes fell off just as he crouched down. And then I think I want you to pay attention, too, to what he says when he shakes his fist. This is relevant because when we're talking about, as inevitably, people start talking about the rhetoric and both siding the rhetoric. But here, continue.
Take a look at what happened.
Move his spear. Hold. When you're ready. On you. Move. Up. Move. Go.
Hawkeye's here.
Pause it. You can hear them say Hawkeye's here, and I assume they're referring to that guy who just crosses the stage. Maybe that is a code name for their SWAT team or their counterterrorism team. And then when that person's there to provide cover for them moving the president, you could see here they were ready to move, and then they stopped because someone said you got to wait for that type of coverage. Continue.
We ready? Are we good?
And they say shoot her down.
Down. Are we good to move?
We're clear. We're clear.
So now they know the shooter's been taken out here, and that's why he can stand.
Let me get my shoes.
I got you, sir. I got you, sir.
Let me get my shoes, sir.
Hold that in your head, it's bloody.
So we gotta move to the bus. Let me get my shoes.
Pause it. You can hear him say 3 times, "Let me get my shoes." He really likes those shoes, I guess. I mean, I imagine he's in a state of shock at this point.
Oh, of course.
And but it is an odd thing to be worried about. But I've never been in this situation, so who knows? Continue.
Let me get my shoes.
Watch out.
He's posing here.
Pause it so you can hear him say, "Wait," and then he thrusts his fist out and mouths, "Fight." My question is like, who exactly are these people supposed to be fighting?
They haven't made a determination about that yet because, as we know, the shooter was a 20-year-old white male. We're still trying to determine what his motives were, if there were any. I mean, there have been assassination attempts on presidents' lives that have been expressly political, but also have been for reasons like, say, I want to impress Jodie Foster.
That is Hinckley's attempt,
Right.
And really nearly killed Ronald Reagan. I mean, they had to pull a bullet out of him, and it was close to his heart.
So we just don't know his motives at this point. He also seemingly had a fairly scant online presence, so it's difficult to discern. As you mentioned, he was a registered Republican, but also donated $15 to this progressive PAC. But there's also some guesses that it could have been like one
Interviews are pretty clear that he was a conservative.
That's what it seems
So
to
far.
indicate, right? Like those emails that get sent out, they have buttons that are it's an easy donation. Sometimes the politics of the donation are obscure, so you don't know. But I think they're struggling.
My understanding too is that the email that he responded to was a poll that said, "Should Biden pardon Donald Trump?" I'm not. I mean, this is, I think, Ryan Grimm's email
Yeah.
over at what's his
on drop site.
on Drop Site. So who knows?
It's hard to say. The point is just that they're struggling to. I think that the political motive is not clear on its face. The fact that he was a white guy, let's be real, I think that the Republicans may have a bit of a harder time politicizing this because it's been this eerie period afterwards where it's almost like, I mean, I was shocked to see some people say, I don't know how much of an effect this will have on the election. It was impossible to believe that in the immediate aftermath. But I'm struggling to see how they're using this as a motivator right now because they don't. I don't know what the politics of this are going to be for them.
I think part of it's going to be defined by in many respects, like after a debate, where what happens in the spin room, as it were, and they apparently have retooled at least his speech for the RNC to make it about unity. Which again, his first words after talking about his shoes, again, he's in a state of shock. But he was, he had his wits about him enough to turn to his people and say, wait. To turn to the Secret Service and say, wait, as he addressed the crowd. And the first thing that he addresses the crowd with is an exhortation to fight.
Well, that's in keeping with his history, and let's be real, this is horrible. I'm so glad he was not killed. Political violence is abhorrent. We all believe that. But that's not what the MAGA movement believes. That's not what Donald Trump believes.
No, we have polling to show that Republicans, not overwhelmingly, but certainly a plurality, or I should say, they have about 15 points, 20 points more inclination, maybe even more than that, 30 points more inclination than Democrats to justify political violence.
He's justified violence against migrants, against protesters.
Pelosi's husband.
Pelosi's husband. This is
The
Donald
Electoral
Trump's bread and
College
butter.
sort of
Against
process.
Congress,
Yeah.
against his own vice president, like you say. So here he is. He's being taken off. He's just yelled, fight, fight. And as if we'll follow this video out. So there's that. This is, let's talk just briefly about the extraordinary security failure here. Do we have a picture of the, can we get a picture of the map of the,
Yeah, that's good.
of the thing? It's pretty astonishing. Do you have that, guys?
As they pull that up, I mean, it was only 160 yards, 164 yards. The roof was away from where Donald Trump was speaking. You can see here how close it was. There,
Okay,
that blue pin is Trump, and the shooter is on the closest, basically adjacent building. A low. I don't know how many stories it is, but a really direct line of sight here for the shooter.
It's crazy. And here's this video. We don't know who shot this video in Butler, Pennsylvania, but it is on the. It gives you a sense of like, this is where the audience was. There was still audience outside the perimeter of Trump's speech. And it gives you a sense of it. And then you're going to, I mean, this is really sort of stunning. There are people who are talking about this guy up on the roof. And it is amazing that there could be people there who could see this guy, and there was not enough police presence, I guess, to do anything about it.
He was doing the job. I wouldn't even be doing this. I could get some beautiful places to Gorgeous Ocean, the
Look, they're all pointing.
the Atlantic, maybe the Pacific.
Yeah, someone's on top of the roof. Look. There he is right there. Right there, see him? He's laying down. See him?
Yeah, he's laying down.
Instead, I'm here with you fighting like hell to get a Senate.
What's happening?
And to make sure we take back the White House, because if we do, we're going to make America better than ever before. We're going to make it.
Yeah, look.
And it's
There he
not
is.
easy, because we have millions and millions of people in our country that shouldn't be here. Dangerous people, criminals.
People in
We
the
have
podcast
criminals.
audience.
We have
He's
drug
crying.
dealers. We have people that should not be here.
right on the roof.
It's much tougher than it happens.
You went right on the roof again.
He was doing
I mean, you could hear people saying he's on the roof. They're yelling to a police officer, he's on the roof. And this isn't, and let's be clear too, the guy is dressed, he's actually apparently wearing a t-shirt that is merch from a YouTube gun community. It is not necessarily associated with any ideology, though it's, less typical that someone from the left would be in those, but one never knows. But the point being is that his entire outfit is tan. And if you look at the snipers who are on the roofs, they are wearing black.
Yeah.
And so it's unlikely that he was spotted and assumed to be a Secret Service sniper. Theoretically, they should know where all the snipers are.
But it also appears that some of the Secret Service were deploying cops to do a lot of jobs, local cops in the areas, We don't know if that was the instance in this, that it was a local police officer that missed it. But those are some of the questions being raised about Secret Service protocol, is how much are they outsourcing it to local police too?
It's crazy that there's not that many buildings to keep track of. Like,
Right.
No,
right,
and
like-
that's the closest one with apparently a police officer did, this is, it's being reported, did go up a ladder, spot the shooter. The shooter saw the cop, raised his rifle, and the cop went back down the ladder, and then the shooter then immediately turned and began to fire. So his timing may have been affected by this cop spotting him at that moment.
But it's still unclear why the cop did not act in that moment. That's
is.
what's bizarre. Did the cop was this a Uvalde situation? Which I know that,
Yeah, he saw a gun pointing at him and he saved himself.
yeah, it was that, what we observed, or was, I don't know, there's some sort of miscommunication with the local police. We're still trying to figure that out.
It obviously was some type of breakdown. Here is KTKA Pittsburgh's Jennifer Barrasso. Many of you, I'm sure, have seen the BBC interview as well, where somebody had basically said, we were trying to tell the cops. This is another crowd member who talks about what he saw before the shooting took place.
Just take me back. What were you doing before the shooting happened? And then what did you see and hear?
I was just standing there like everybody else, waiting for Trump. And as Trump started, I noticed two officers that were looking for something or somebody. I was looking around myself and seeing a guy on top of one of the buildings go in between one building to the next, and went and told the officer that he was up there. And when I went back to my spot, I heard that people could still see the person from where they were standing. So I checked that out, and I went back to tell the officer that if he came over there, he could see them. And when I turned my back is when the shots started, and then it took me a second or two to figure out exactly what it was. And then it was just getting out of there and helping some other person out with her child, and we got out, and that was the end of that. And I went and left, and that was all.
I mean, there's that. And again, we don't really know. And let's just play, I guess, this last clip too, to just give you a sense of the timeline. Here is the video. Here is video of one of the, or two, I guess, of the Secret Service snipers on the roof nearest the stage, just almost to the right and slightly behind the stage.
But facing in the direction
But facing
of
directly
that
at that building.
Yes.
Which, I mean,
do we have that map again? Just like, so
Yeah,
can we just show and compare?
pop that map up.
So you see the map here, right? You see the building that is behind.
Put your cursor down to that
Right.
building. It's right there. Go to where Trump is there, and then go to your right.
Yeah.
Right there, and yes,
That is where
right
they
on-
are, and
yeah.
that's where they should, and they're facing in the direction
They
of
only
the
put
shooter.
the main building that a shooter would come from.
Exactly. I mean, that's the thing, is that now I imagine there are all snipers on the other end of that building looking the other direction just because.
Why wouldn't you have snipers on the one the sniper was on?
That's another question,
It
right?
is very, or at the very least, spotters.
A cop, yeah.
Like somebody with binoculars, because that just seems to give you a good perspective on what the crowd is doing. Like you don't, it's very strange. And so you can see the sniper react to what he thinks he's about to see.
And you know, that's a little bit old, that chart. That chart's a couple of months old, and if you want to really see something that's said, take a look at what happened.
Okay, and so you just before the first shot rings out, you see the sniper, the Secret Service sniper, look up over his scope to confirm what he's actually seeing in his scope. And then he gets back down, and the next set of shots you hear are presumably from that sniper, killing the shooter.
But you have to ask the question of if he was looking in that direction the entire time through his scope with this shooter crawling up, bear crawling on the roof for quite a period of time.
I think the
was the angle bad?
I think
They're behind
the pitch. It's a low pitch on the roof.
That's why he was standing
And
low.
it wasn't until he gets up that they see him, because he's coming from the other side of the pitch. So he probably gets up on his knees, more or less. The sniper does, and maybe the tan that he's wearing, I don't know, blends
It looks
into
like
the,
it blended in with the roof, I
mean,
guess.
who knows? But it was a real failure there. The initial responses from the right were, of course, to attempt to, further, let's be clear, their agenda is, has been to stoke the notion of a civil war. Now, well, before we get to Republicans reacting, we should just say what we know about the would-be assassin at this time, that he was 20 years old, Thomas Matthew Crooks. He registered Republican, had given a $15 donation in 2021 in response to a survey
email
blast asking if Joe Biden should pardon Donald Trump.
From a pretty spammy pack.
From a pretty spammy pack. There's been mixed reports from, but none of them necessarily contradictory, reports from his classmates in high school, ranging from the kid at that time was bullied. Others say that he wasn't necessarily that bullied. I'm not suggesting that it matters. I'm just giving you what we've read at this point. There were two former classmates who said that he was conservative. One of whom was on the debate team with him. And former student Max R. Smith, this is coming from the Philadelphia Inquirer, recalled participating in a mock debate in a course they took together where their teacher posed questions on government policy and had students stand on opposite sides of the classroom to signal their support or opposition. The majority of the class were on the liberal side, but Tom, no matter what, always stood his ground on the conservative side. That's still the picture I have of him, just standing alone on one side while the rest of the class was on the other. It makes me wonder why he would carry out an assassination attempt on the conservative candidate. There was someone else who referred to him as being perceived as a Republican or conservative. Like Emma said, we may never know at this point why he did this. The DOJ apparently has his phone, and I would imagine access to the computer. His family is cooperating with the feds.
And it appears that his father may have purchased that rifle.
It's being reported that his father purchased the rifle. It is an AR-15. We could talk about obviously, like, Joe Biden should be calling for gun control at this moment. This doesn't happen if this, a kid has a gun that is going to be less powerful,
Yeah.
frankly, from that distance. I mean, this is,
And to your point, I mean that because the Republicans can't seemingly come up with like it's a Muslim person or this is a black person that we can stow up racial resentment towards. They're struggling to find a narrative here. It's a good opportunity for the Democrats to make it into their own, which is we need gun control in this country.
100%. I mean, as a political matter, we need gun control in this country.
Yeah.
So as a policy matter, it's obviously an imperative. And as a political matter, it's also a good time, a better time to attempt to push that policy through. And if it doesn't work, then it certainly becomes more of a wedge issue for the Republicans. Be that as it may, you had John Hinckley, who attempted to kill Reagan as a way of trying to impress Jodie Foster. During the 70s, Gerald Ford was involved in 2 assassination attempts that were like 3 weeks apart. One in Sacramento, California, by a person named, I can't remember her real first name, but her nickname was Squeaky Fromme, or her last name was Fromme. She was a member of the Manson family, but that is not why she did it. It involved Gerald Ford being invited to California, if I remember correctly, because Jerry Brown, who was the recent governor, was either disinvited or refused to go to like some Chamber of Commerce thing. And Ford came. Squeaky Fromme was concerned because part of this had to do with like smog legislation in California. And I believe Ford had inhibited it in some way, and she was convinced that the smog was going to kill the forests in California. And she attempted to shoot Gerald Ford, did not hit him. And then 2 weeks later, and I cannot remember the name of this shooter, I believe she was a member of a radical group who felt that shooting him would essentially start a civil war or some type of like revolution in the country. Now, Gemini Cricket says Squeaky's real name, I think, was Lynette. And Lynette Squeaky Fromme, thank you. And so we don't know why this guy shot at Trump. It could have been just that Trump was coming to his hometown. He saw an opportunity to, go out in a blaze of glory in some fashion, wanted to, maybe was depressed, wanted to commit suicide by cop, as they call it, and go out and be in the books, forever in the history books. Maybe he wanted to start some type of civil war. Someone just wrote he was an accelerationist. I mean, that's not inconceivable. There are definitely conservative-leaning groups, right-wing groups that are seeking to start a sort of a violent revolution. I mean, part of the reason why, like the Boogaloo Boys, supported, and I have no reason to believe that this guy was a Boogaloo Boy. I don't know. The reporting, I'm sure if it's the case, we'll come across it. But I'm just expressing an ideology that's out there. The Boogaloo Boys, one of the reasons why they were siding with BLM protests was not so much that they felt a kinship or sympathy with the nature of the BLM protests, but more its function in fighting back against the state, with the hopes that there would be some type of civil war that would bring about a more reactionary style society. So that's all we know at this point. But
I will say, it's good. It's a good thing he did not kill Trump. I have deep anxiety about what that would have done to the country in many ways. I think it could have been just more horrors, more violence, more all of that in the streets. But we have to see if the Democrats can capitalize on this moment to basically make this point where when you said Trump says fight after he gets shot. And the reality is they're trying to say that Democrats calling Trump a threat to democracy is inciting violence against Trump. That's what they're going with now, which is just not the case. It's just not the case. And the reality is that it's been Trump's wing of the party for the nearly decade now that he's dominated Republican politics that have advocated for violence against protesters, against people who may disagree with them, against members of the press. So I don't want to see much both sidesing here. And the Democrats would be wise to not let that narrative take over.
Tic-tac-toe, I just want to make this clear. It says, my understanding is the cop was hoisting himself up to see and let himself go and drop when the shooter turned towards him, so the cop didn't have the advantage of a ladder. That would make
more sense.
Some sense.
Yeah.
BL Biden says Grimm's article didn't confirm that the donation was from the Should Biden Pardon Trump poll. It was just that in the email the PAC sent out around that time, there were others they sent out around that time too. So it's unclear which email he responded to. But yes, I think that the initial inclination was that this is going to help Trump, and it very well may. But it also may remind people that one of the reasons why they didn't want to re-elect Donald Trump in 2020 was because of the drama that comes with Trump. Now, obviously, this is not Trump's doing per se. I mean, we'll never know what was in the mind of this shooter for sure. But
the AR-15 policy, though, I mean,
well, look, I mean, the existence of that, the ease in which that guy has that gun, is definitely a function of longtime conservative and Republican policy.
Because I think another thing that's been reported is he was not welcome at his local gun club, or the gun shooter.
That was the high school team,
and that should be, frankly, where our checks come from in this country. About, in my view of gun rights, is civil organizations like that you need to be a part of, and they need to validate that you are safe to own this gun. And that was a check. He wasn't safe for that. He's clearly not safe. He shouldn't be safe to just go purchase something that you could invade a country with.
One could argue that this sort of like the nature of our society and the nature of political violence, that Trump certainly has widened the Overton window, as it were, for the idea of political violence, and has diminished the import of political violence. When he jokes about Nancy Pelosi's husband.
Remember Second Amendment solutions?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's countless things, and we know the images of Biden. Pop this stuff up. This is just some of the images that have been, floating around the right wing world. Pop each one up. One is, and there's Donald Trump Jr. shooting. Has Hillary Clinton in prison. No, what a nerd. In his cartridge.
That gun looks like a toy now.
Yeah, and go to the next one. There's a I guess a wrap on a car. That looks like Biden is tied up in the back of a pickup truck. Here is another one, same more or less image. Let's go, Brandon. There's one on the back of a pickup truck that looks like Biden's in the stockades. I mean, so this is in the air. The idea that people could associate these themes of violence and of drama with Trump may hurt him. I don't know. frankly, you know, around this time, maybe even closer to the election in 2016, even the day before the election in 2016, we had a Princeton professor on of statistics who basically came on and said, I don't know if he's from statistics or political science or what he was, but he basically said there was a 99% chance that Hillary Clinton was going to win. And so these things are unpredictable. There is a lot of reason and a lot of data to support right now the idea that Joe Biden cannot win, will not win in 3 months from now, 4 months from now. But who knows what happens tomorrow?
It can change. But I mean, in 2016, the data was in Hillary's favor. But part of what I started when I started doing this job was we were going around the Midwest, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. I went to during this particular tour, and I remember leading up to the general, the Trump enthusiasm and saying this doesn't make sense, and I thought that there was a good chance that Hillary would lose, and that was when the data was on her side. Now we have overwhelming evidence at this current moment that Biden is down and down significantly, and that's before polling has come in from this shooting, which you're saying maybe it could turn things around, but it's we'll get into it, of course. But the thing that is so disenchanting, I think, for a lot of people is that there was a lot of momentum to get Biden off the ballot ahead of this, and now you have quotes from Democrats resigning themselves to a Trump victory in Axios saying that, wow, this is really going to slow the momentum on that front.
Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.